We in the EFF were for everyone. We are for Africans, for coloreds, for Indians, for whites. We are for Christians, we are for Muslims, we are for all the nations, because we believe South Africa is a diverse nation. I'm happy to be here in Eldorado Park. And when they said I was coming here, someone thought I was coming here for the first time. It's not true. I've been here many times, especially when I was the president of the ANC Youth League. I used to go into the flats and look at the conditions of our people in the flats and try to fight for them to change those conditions of our people. Eldorado Park, we all know, is part of all the racist areas that were created by a Racist Group Areas Act that said coloreds must go this side, African this side, Indians this side. They wanted to divide us and not allow us to see ourselves as one thing. They did so in the 50s. And they said, you are colored, I'm an African, he's an Indian. But we're all oppressed. Why, when we are different, are we oppressed the same? So it means standing here is not an African, it's a colored. Because colored means oppressed. Blacks means oppressed. Indian means oppressed. And we are all the products of oppression, and we must never see each other through the color of our skin. We must see ourselves through the conditions we live in. My children and your children are born into unemployment. You know that my children can go to school in Eldorado Park. They will be referred to these days silently as kafirs. They will not call them kafirs openly, but they look at them and say, these kafirs will not get this high position. These kafirs will not get this business opportunity. All of that goes back to those who were privileged under oppression. So we were all rejected. We were all exploited. We were all abused. And alcoholism and drug abuse was introduced not only in Eldorado Park, everywhere else where you found the oppressed people. So Eldorado Park is known for fighting, and the people of Eldorado Park are known for not being scared to confront an oppression. And that's why this area has got a good history in the struggle against apartheid. So the people of Eldorado Park and Soweto have been fighting shoulder to shoulder to defeat an apartheid government. That's why it will be wrong for anyone to say the people of Soweto must benefit more than the people of Eldorado Park. We have to benefit the same way because we were oppressed the same way. We have to fight unemployment, poverty, crime, alcohol, drug abuse, which is what affects all of us. What brings us together is that we don't own the banks, we don't own the land, we don't own the industries. Children pass matric, they don't know where to go. That's why they surrender to alcohol and drugs. So we want children of Eldorado Park, to be employed in the public safety, to be metro police as well. We must not just see only African metro police. There is no colored, there is no one who can speak to me in Afrikaans in a manner that I can feel represented in the police force of Johannesburg. The same goes to the health. When we go to health, MMC, Enimakafula must make sure that they say they are going to operate a satellite clinic in the retirement village. But you cannot open a satellite village which is going to be operated by people who can speak our language, by people who understand us, by our own children who will not treat us as customers, but treat us as their parents and love us the way people love their own parents. Now, we in the EFF were for everyone. We are for Africans, for coloreds, for Indians, for whites. We are for Christians, we are for Muslims, we are for all the nations, because we believe South Africa is a diverse nation. Now I hear there was a fool who went around here saying, I don't want Jesus Christ. And I asked these guys, why do they say I don't want Jesus Christ? They say you said something some other day about Jesus Christ. I said, what is your response when they say you don't love Jesus Christ? They too don't have an answer. I said to them, you must answer them with one thing. When they say Julius Malema doesn't love Jesus Christ, you must tell them Julius Malema built a church of Christ in Sishiwu, where he comes from, in honor of his mother. There is a house of the Lord that I've built with my own hands. And I invited Zuma to go and open that church with me. And Zuma came along. Now, those who have a mind of a rat will not remember that I've built a church, not only one, but many churches. I've made a contribution to make sure that this religion of Christianity prosper as any other religion. So I don't have anything except that myself, I'm a Christian. My religion is Christianity. My church is the Sishiwu Baptist Church. I pay my services there every month so that my funeral can have a pastor. I don't want Mbuyiseni to be borrowed to come and make a prayer at my funeral. So we are for everyone as the EFF. We just don't want racists. We don't like drug lords. The drug lords here in Eldorado Park work with Begikele's police. They distribute drugs through the police vans, and they are protected by the police. We have established a special unit for the first time under Metro Police, under the EFF MMC, a special task force that goes around fighting dangerous criminals. It was here last night where we were fighting toe for toe against drug lords, where we went to liberate a lady who was kidnapped. 2 weeks, police could not find that person. Only the special task force of the Metro Police under the EFF found that lady here in Eldorado Park yesterday. And our MMC, who's the national leader of the EFF, was with the task force on the ground himself, fighting crime. It's not a one-night stand, it's a permanent thing. We are going to fight criminals here in Eldorado Park, in Orange Farm, in Sebokeng, in Soweto, Mamelodi, and everywhere in Gauteng, because criminals have taken over our towns and our townships. We need to reclaim those places. We need to make sure that there is sports in Eldorado Park. There must be sports facilities. You can't say to children, don't go and do drugs, and you don't give them an alternative. Because children have got too much energy. That energy must be harnessed. It must be channeled somewhere. If you don't use it, they will go and use it in a wrong place. That's why they must go to school. After school, they must write homework. When they think they are done with the homework, they are at the sports field. When the sports field, back home, take a shower, sleep, prepare for school. so that that energy, every time we know where that energy is monitored and rightfully channeled.
Now, one of the reasons this video really interests me is because I think it's the first time I'm getting to see a lot of Indians and a lot of coloreds, and I think whites in a setting with the EFF, in an EFF rally. And I think it's really interesting that they came out here to hear what Julius Malema had to say. And I think I'm going to post 2 other videos where there was either a white or a colored woman who actually was critiquing the policies of the ANC and asking Julius Malema what he would do regarding that policy. And it was a really heated, for me, exchange between both. And the fact that some coloreds and some whites still really believe in the EFF and the policies of the EFF to redress the historical oppression which actually encompasses South Africa's history. And I think one of you here in the comments, that's really interesting comments, actually said that, I think it was a white South African who said that he actually hopes that Julius Malema wins because there's really no solution to the problems that have actually been created by the circumstances which South Africa has found itself, and that everything has to be destroyed and then rebuilt. That was a really strange comment, but really interesting comment, because I really wonder where that this commenter is coming from. It's one of the comments, I think, on the last video I made with John Steenhuisen when he spoke about the coalition between the ANC and the EFF. Really interesting comment. And I just wanted to just think about a possibility of an EFF diversity, so to speak. So a diverse South Africa, according to the EFF, would be one that wouldn't necessarily, in my opinion, be beneficial to probably what is generally termed white South Africans. But it would be a diversity that would seek to redress what is popularly or generally perceived as oppression that has been inflicted on black South Africans. And if the whites in South Africa can accept that form of diversity, which doesn't necessarily racialize the objective of diversity, but at the same time tries to redress historical injustices in that regard, which subsequently and ultimately would result in a lot of the whites in South Africa being victims of that historical redress, then I think that exactly is how I think the EFF sees a diverse South Africa. While many white South Africans really hope that the past can actually be forgotten, that the past injustices against the blacks can actually be wiped off, and that South Africans can actually start building from scratch to build a really genuine rainbow nation. So these are two characters of diversity which I'm hearing from these parties, especially from the DA party and from the EFF. And the PA is also along the same lines as the DA, which says that we can't blame apartheid for too long. We acknowledge apartheid, we acknowledge the historical injustice that apartheid caused on some South Africans, but let's leave that aside and start building forward. So these are the two forms of diversity which I see that South Africa must choose, especially in these elections, to really work with and really think through, the South African electorate especially, to think through, as they vote for this next election. I think there was this Greek philosopher who spoke about why he thinks democracy in this regard is a scam, because he believed, I'm going to try to Google his name, it was a really interesting perspective for me. He believed that for democracy to succeed in a society, that the electorates who vote for the leaders have to be educated on the character of democracy in itself. And so democracy thrives on the education of the electorate, so to speak. So a highly conscious electorate, is necessary and really vital for the success of democratic governance in any space, wherever it's located in the world. And I think that would be one element of success, especially as South Africa tries to thrive in this racially sensitive, diverse populace and space which seeks to govern itself through the vehicles of democracy and to achieve sustainable governance. And so I think these are the objectives I see the parties grappling with. There are two forms of diversity. There are two forms of equality, two forms of approaches to equity which the different parties in South Africa and the electorates have to choose from. One is a form of diversity that recognizes and acknowledges the historical injustices against the black South Africans in South Africa's history and build from there for a united South Africa, or the other that seeks to redress this diversity, not in a condescending way, but in a way that would ultimately result in the victimization of one group, and that's the blacks, and also the process of creating policies that end up making the whites, who have been the beneficiaries of apartheid oppression, as victims in this historical approach to redressing historical injustice in South Africa. So these are the two forms of diversity which I think South Africans would have to choose from this election, and what ultimately the future of South Africa, what the future awaits for South Africa. But what do you guys think about this speech by Julius Malema? Share your thoughts in the comments.
Thank you for watching, guys. I really hope you enjoyed this video. Please share and like and subscribe, because that's the way you support Kwazemi as a channel, an Afrocentric channel, where we try to understand deeper issues in African history and hopefully develop a collective intelligence on how we wish to build the Africa we want to see as people of Africa. See you in the next one.